and members of the FinTech Association of Hong Kong will be sharing their thoughts on what factors make Hong Kong the center for crypto innovation. For members of our community, some of the contributing factors leading to Hong Kong being the center of crypto innovation today are its low taxes, the option for individuals to freely buy, trade, sell, store digital assets on their preferred platform of choice. And perhaps the most important factor is today's regulatory stance where Bitcoin is defined as a virtual commodity. As Asia's world city, Hong Kong is in a leading position to continue developing itself as Asia's crypto hub. With unemployment in Hong Kong being at an all-time high that hasn't been seen since the SARS crisis, we feel that now is the time to embrace our advantages. Looking into the future, we think the three factors that can create jobs, grow our economy, and maintain our status as Asia's world city are: number one, empower retail investors through education. This sector is rapidly evolving. By continuing to empower retail investors to better balance risks with opportunities, it can result in more informed decisions in choosing platforms that are most suitable for an individual's needs. Essentially, our community believes in the proverbs, give a person a fish, they'll be able to eat for a day, but if one can teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. The second factor that we think that will help maintain Hong Kong as a crypto innovation hub is adaptable and realistic guidelines for service providers. So the proposed new regulation from the SFC restricts platforms from servicing individuals who are not professional investors. Professional investors are defined as having at least 8 million Hong Kong dollars. This limitation effectively denies 93% of Hong Kong's population from participating in one of the greatest financial innovations in recent times. With the financial exclusion, retail investors could be at heightened risk because they could be driven to trading activity underground into shadowy peer-to-peer markets where participants have no recourse. Oh, I think there is a background noise, but I'll go back to the point where participants have no recourse and are at risk of becoming victims of criminal activities. Retail investors will also be at risk by being pushed onto exchanges and trading platforms that have businesses or have established subsidiaries in Hong Kong, employing thousands of individuals. Without clear, adaptable, and realistic regulatory regimes, exchanges may choose to leave Hong Kong, and this might lead to a loss of talent, which ultimately will erode Hong Kong's status of being a center for crypto innovation and potentially as a financial hub, making markets more efficient and reliable as crypto markets become more mainstream. The third and final contributing factor is that we hope to have open and continuous communication. Members from our association applauds the Hong Kong government in launching public consultation on regulating digital assets, but perhaps a more two-way communication will be ideal so that retail investors who could be most affected through this new regulation can have access to fair, accessible, and a safe environment to continue trading. So we hope that through this webinar, where we have a very diverse panel, they'll be able to share more insights on the factors that can drive Hong Kong to continue being a crypto innovation hub. Now, I'm going to pass this over to Georgina, who is a senior reporter at the South China Morning Post.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much, Brian, for introducing the background of this discussion. And we're very grateful to have so many experienced speakers with us today. Now, before we start the panel discussion, I'd like to perhaps simply just set the scene for why we're doing this today. Obviously, because we're having two consultation exercise in Hong Kong, if you will, that are ongoing in Hong Kong. Now, one of them, which took place earlier, is the one by the SFC, which has launched a consultation paper and has actually issued a license already live to one of the companies here, which governs virtual asset service provider. Now, the more recent one we have is the one by the FSTB, which has proposed that all digital asset providers have to be licensed, and the consultation has already finished about maybe 4 months ago. The aim of the government is to actually move it through the Legislative Council so that they could actually move through a bill under the city's anti-money laundering ordinance to have this effective in the city. So I'm very grateful to have all of these very experienced speakers and panelists with us today. Now, before I kick off these questions, may I just ask everybody to kindly introduce themselves as well as very briefly the business of your company?
Shall I take the turn first?
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. So hello everyone, I'm Paul Chen, the CEO of AAX. AAX is a cryptocurrency exchange platform powered by London Stock Exchange Group technologies. That's the same technology used in 40 different financial markets. That's MiFID II compliance, and then that's our aspiration to level the playing ground for all market participants. Right now, we have around 800,000 users around the world, and then we are hiring around 120 employees in our offices in Hong Kong and Europe. So we really hope that through this discussion we can explore possibilities to really serve and retain our users in Hong Kong. That's actually our biggest challenge right now.
And maybe Lucy?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Lucy Gasmerarian. I'm the founder of Token Bay Capital. We are an early stage venture fund focused on investing in companies in the digital assets and blockchain space. Proud to be located in Hong Kong and operating under a Type 9 asset management license.
Angelina?
Hi, my name is Angelina Kwan, and I'm the Group Chief Operating Officer and Group Chief Risk Officer for the Hashkey Group. And the Hashkey Group is a digital asset group. We have multi-businesses under our wing. And the one that I'm most busy with right now is trying to get the 1 in 7 license from the SFC, the Virtual Asset Service Provider license. So I am in the process of working on that, as is one of my other panelists today. And it's an exciting time. We have a Type 9, we have an asset management arm, and that's what Hashkey Capital is known for in terms of early stage fund investing. We also have a 1 in 4 for trading. So we're looking to expand and grow out our businesses in Hong Kong and globally with the goal of launching our exchange and tokenization services. So very, very exciting time. Thank you.
Definitely looking forward to it. And Ken?
Hi, everyone. So this is Ken, co-founder and chief strategy officer for Hong Kong BDEX. So same as Angelina here. So we are also one of the finalists, right, applying for the virtual assets trading platform license. And basically what we are building, also headquartered in Hong Kong, is to build a digital assets ecosystem to embrace the current tokenization, technology and services, right, to help all the financial professionals to go through this journey. So so we are also having our technology arm, right, and also relevant licenses, right, to help on this.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. And I'd like to just begin the panel with this question, because ultimately, I think a lot of people are very much embracing cryptocurrency simply for the fact that it is a way for promoting financial inclusion. So maybe at this point, as a way to get you to share your experience, is there anyone kind of interested in sharing your views on how has, over the past maybe a decade of history, been Bitcoin? Have you seen that it has promoted financial inclusion?
I'm happy to get started on that. Listen, I think the technology that Bitcoin brought to the world was incredible, right? And it was very much based on peer-to-peer technology, that you would no longer need centralized intermediaries in the middle of a transaction, particularly payments. So actually, one of the really interesting areas of innovation that have taken off, definitely a very successful early use case, is in the payments arena. Perhaps not using Bitcoin, given the volatility of Bitcoin as an instrument, but certainly stable coins have taken off and inspired by the underlying technology of Bitcoin, and are facilitating cross-border transactions all around the world instantly and for almost no cost, so that it's so easy that on your phone you can suddenly transfer value around the world. And that is a huge financial inclusion aspect to it, right? Because suddenly everybody that had to maybe go physically to a branch somewhere, pay 20% in terms of transaction fees, they're now empowered to just send their money when they want to, 24/7, 365 days of the year. And that's a hugely important innovation that Bitcoin has given rise to.
Understood. Anyone would like to chime in?
I think Lucy is absolutely right. And I would just add that in addition to inclusion, I think it's just revolutionized everything that we do. And as we embrace more in terms of the immutability and the benefits of being on the blockchain, you can see all of these neat things that are coming out that we wouldn't have even imagined before. For example, art. And I mean, everybody's talking about the $69.3 million piece of art, but it's just simple things of just having an ownership on the blockchain. It's being able, if you're a domestic worker, a foreign domestic worker, if you wanted to remit funds, which Lucy talked about, you can send it back to the Philippines. So everyday life has been changing. You see the high profile, Bitcoin prices, but it's the little things that are being improved by the functions that this has all been brought about by the original protocols that were actually written by a group of people or one person 10, 15 years ago. So I, myself and a couple of other ex-regulator people sort of jumped into this, and I find it the most fascinating area to be in right now. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So I think there is a lot of financial inclusion, and it can be expanded even more. And I'm sorry, what can be imagined can be achieved. I think that is very much in this industry.
Totally. So before I run into the next question, is there anyone who would still like to comment on this angle? I mean, Angelina, you remind me of the non-fungible tokens on the basketball player, the NBA players like the LeBron James and all that.
Yeah, I think Georgina, this can, right? So I think echoing to what Angela mentioned, right? So I think there are a couple of angles when you talk about blockchain. So a lot of people focusing a lot on Bitcoin, and definitely it's one of the most successful or basically the real successful use case or application of blockchain by far, right? But when we look at this, right, there are a lot of discussions and also hard work around the technology itself, right? There are a lot of protocols, there are a lot of developers try to leverage the current technology to improve a lot of number of things, right? So we always talk about digital assets or virtual assets in Hong Kong, right? So a lot of people got confused about what virtual assets means, right? So I think just to recap to everyone, I think virtual assets including two assets class, right? One is cryptocurrency, and the most prominent is BTC or ETH. And the other one is the security token offering, which is pretty new, like a term in Hong Kong, but it's regarded as a new fundraising channel where US and Euro have taken a bit of ride around this in the past 2 to 3 years. So when we look into blockchain, we can talk about technology implementation. We can talk about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin as a new digital gold, as an alternative assets class. Or we can look into how to leverage technology to basically empower liquidity to illiquid assets like NFT you mentioned, right? Like art, etc. So we are seeing a lot of assets that initially their values, right, are being locked. And now using the blockchain technology to unleash its potential, to improve its liquidity and also the access, right, to investors, such as the NFT like NBA Top Shots that you mentioned. So there are a couple of angles when we talk about blockchain, right? But I hope everyone can bring the same level of understanding about what virtual assets mean, what Bitcoin blockchain would look like.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks very much. And since Ken, I have you just commenting on this first question, maybe I'll just very conveniently also follow up with this question. Now, understanding how in Hong Kong we're actually having this new license virtual asset service provider, and then some of the players would have to be put into the scrutiny of the AML regime. Now, if I walk back to right now, or if I walk back to previous years, how have people been getting their access to cryptocurrency? I mean, how have people been trading it? How have people been getting themselves involved? So what are some of the ways that they have get themselves involved today or in the past?
Yeah, so maybe
Well,
I could share a little
you
bit.
first, sir.
Sorry.
No, you're first.
Just try to share a little bit like on the uses that we observed in the past 7-8 years running cryptocurrency platform or trading, right? So like right now, like at the very beginning, people, they try to access to cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. Maybe they just say like, okay, I'm going to buy some, I want to sell some Bitcoin or like a digital currency, and then like they just make a post on the forum, and then like they just deal it like a peer-to-peer on the forum, and then like okay, you pay me the money, I give you the Bitcoin, and then like if you don't pay me the money, I don't give you the Bitcoin. So that's actually the very beginning. If you read some posts on Reddit or like and then like some people, they're trying to use Bitcoin to buy such stuff. So like that's the very first generation to buy Bitcoin, or like if you're miners, you can get it fresh and minted from mining. So that's the I would say that's phase one, very old way to get Bitcoin. The second phase moving forward would be like some trading platform or some exchange, right? So they are kind of acting as the third party to escrow the transaction. So like on one side, they deposit the Bitcoin, on the other side, that like the users themselves, they will pay with their personal account. Okay, I transfer money to you, and then like and then you confirm in your bank account that like you've got the money, and then the platform will release the Bitcoin to you. So that's kind of like a peer-to-peer way that like we see like getting the Bitcoin. So like you see like localbitcoins.com is very early platform that people, they get Bitcoin. So we call it like a peer-to-peer. And still, this is one of the very popular ways to get Bitcoins. But there are a lot more new methods that they buy Bitcoins. Maybe they buy it with their maybe some game or Xbox points cards with the to get a Bitcoin. So like it's evolving very interestingly. So like and also now like some exchange platform or trading platform, they're having more and more fiat on and off ramp gateways. They can do it through some payment gateways, or like they can, some of them, they can even do it through the bank transfer to deposit money to some bank accounts, or like trust bank accounts to get money. So like these are the ways that people, they try to access Bitcoin. So like in different regions, there are some different ways of like popular methods for users to Bitcoin. So like for example, for us, and then since we are a different users in different regions, right? So they prefer to use different methods to buy cryptocurrency. Say for example, we have like a very big user group from CIS region. So these users, they actually like tend to use maybe credit cards to buy cryptocurrencies. And then like we have like some users in Asia, they prefer to use like a peer-to-peer way to buy cryptocurrencies. And then like now the users, they're getting smart, and then like they want to choose to go to some platforms to do the purchase. But still, like sometimes we still sometimes see some really crazy news on the newspaper that somebody tried to buy Bitcoin and do some face-to-face transaction, and then like they got robbed. And then like I think that's the issue, that like the markets or the users still need more education to do that.
Yes, it's actually quite relevant to us, because I do hear some of the people saying that even if they go to an ATM machine, they try to buy Bitcoin, and then they think that what they bought from someone else, with the QR code that they had, they couldn't actually cash out. So it's what Thor, you mentioned, is still pretty relevant. Now, at this stage, I'd like to switch the angle a little bit to where we are right now. We're in Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong government likes to talk about going into the Greater Bay Area. Hong Kong is part of, the Greater Bay Area, and that's where innovation could potentially happen. Now, perhaps maybe I'll ask your view, Lucy. I mean, why do you think that it's so strategically important for Hong Kong to develop itself as a hub for crypto innovation?
Yeah, so listen, Hong Kong is definitely part of the Greater Bay Area. It's one of the two special administrative regions. The Greater Bay Area is a tech hub as well as a finance hub. And that's a really interesting combination to have that all in one place. And that really creates such a culture of innovation. There's so much going on, and there's so much potential bringing together actually 3 different legal systems, 3 different currencies. So when we're sort of trying to understand how technology can bridge different jurisdictions, make things efficient cross-border, Hong Kong has got a really interesting position and role to play. And indeed, the HKMA last year finalized their last phase of Lion Rock Inthenon with the Bank of Thailand. And now that's been extended to the PBOC and the Central Bank of the UAE. And what began as a bilateral cross-border currency network on the Ethereum blockchain has now been extended to multiple currencies. So what that's saying is that actually they're positioning Hong Kong to be able to exchange many different currencies, but on completely new blockchain-enabled payments infrastructure. So essentially the technology that Bitcoin brought to the world, where we're decentralizing payments, actually the central banks are also inspired by this technology. And that's exactly what they're doing here. And Hong Kong is positioned in an incredible role in that respect. And so we're seeing that really take off. Obviously, we've got just across the border, we've got the PBOC airdropping their new digital currency. So again, back to earlier points, crypto innovation is not limited to Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency, if you like. There are many different instruments that are inspired by the underlying technology, whether it's central bank digital currencies, stable coins, security tokens. There is so much that this technology has given rise to. And the other interesting aspect for Hong Kong in maintaining its status as an international finance hub is how we're transferring traditional financial securities, stocks and bonds, and transferring that onto a blockchain. So we're tokenizing everything. We will, in my opinion, tokenize everything. And again, Bitcoin and that technology has inspired us to use that technology to apply it to different aspects. So I think the combination of the tech hub in Shenzhen, the new Silicon Valley, tech companies here that are maybe, Ken and Angelina, case in point, really looking to upgrade the infrastructure for capital markets. You have many developers that you can access, people to help you build these new companies in this new future that's just across the border in Shenzhen. So really, it's a culture of innovation. There's so much entrepreneurship going on in this region, and Hong Kong is very strategically positioned to benefit from many aspects of it.
Maybe Angelina or Ken, would you like to add some more?
I totally agree with what Lucy's saying, and but more on a trading side for us, and this is probably applicable for Ken and I. The Great Firewall does not allow digital currency trading in China, theoretically. So we can't really pierce it. So Hong Kong, as a part of the Greater Bay Area, has become an area, which is one of the reasons why we have like 22 exchanges in Hong Kong. But it's been a great growth place for digital asset exchanges, tokenization, and new innovations. And we're basically leading it for China, because whilst the regulators have not specifically outlawed it or banned it, we also have reason to understand that it is not specifically encouraged in China to actually have digital assets trading, although there are 2 exchanges there that are very large. So we in Hong Kong can become the great connector, and that also drives some of the regulation. But we are the great connector to the world, and coining my old boss's words, connecting connecting China to the world and the world to China. And that's one of the reasons why, for example, the Hashkey Group was born, because our founders, who are based in China, basically wanted to set up a global digital asset exchange in Hong Kong that would help clients trade globally, but specifically Chinese clients as well as international clients, and putting them together. So I think that has been a big thing, and it will be a very important part of Greater Bay Area. Now, Lucy touched upon the Middle East, but we need to really touch also with the EU, as well as the Africas, as well as the rest of Asia. And connecting that together will be very, very important. So it's not just the Greater Bay Area, it's the greater world area that we have possibilities for. So 22 exchanges that are here in Hong Kong have so much opportunity. And I think there's only, the only thing that stops us, and this is a frustration of mine, is we just don't have enough kids going into STEM subjects. And this is something that we've been trying to get Hong Kong government to work on. in terms of getting more people into the STEM area and learning about how to code, how to understand technology. Our compatriots up north, yes, there are many coders, but this is a huge job opportunity for young people in Hong Kong. And it's an area that I'd like to really encourage, and I speak about it quite often. So that's my view.
Anyone would like to add anything? Maybe Ken, or perhaps?
Yeah, I think just one point to add around that. So I think Lucy and Angelina talk a lot around the promise, right, and the potential of the Greater Bay Area and how Hong Kong can be well positioned, right, to grasp the future opportunities around such. But I think there are 2 points we have to understand is with the promise, right, it's also up to of us to deliver, right, against the dream, right? When we always work in a corporate, right, there always a vision, but when you look at the reality, wow, the gap is so huge, right? And it's always talking about potential, right? So personally, running into a startup, right, we need to drive every day and having progress, right, is how to turn potential into reality. And I think there are 2 missing links here. One, I think, is like forum like today, I think it's great because it helps a lot of people in Hong Kong that they're already in financial industry. There are more than 300,000 financial professionals. But again, how many of them have understood Bitcoin clearly, right? How many of them clearly can talk about the difference between crypto and digital assets, right? How many of them understand there are trading platforms, there are different opportunities around this alternative investment class? So I think the whole raft of market education needs to be further upskilled, right? So this forum is great, right? But again, right, how could we, right, from all fronts, right, to promote this alternative investment class, which is so unique that mainland China could not trade, but Hong Kong steps into an unprecedented opportunity around that, right? So this gives a lot of growth potential for all of the financial professionals. But again, my reality is there's not too much people have the right understanding, right? So that's one. 2 is with the right understanding, are we capable to deliver against the potential, right? It goes back to the capabilities. How many people in Hong Kong are equipped with the right fintech knowledge, right? So a lot of us are in different associations and promoting fintech of Hong Kong and advocating around this. But still, you always see the same batch of fellows, right, in different conferences, events. And why it's happening, right? It's because of the shortage of talent, right? So these are the 2 major pillars that if Hong Kong can really deliver the potential into reality that Lucy and Angela rightly point out, I think it's really the time, right? So that is something that we have to do more. And then great that, like for Georgina, your forum, your platform, I think it can advocate greater momentum and positivity in this space.
Okay, now I think since we talked about education and understanding of the asset class, I think it's a very good point for us to discuss about the retail public, access to this asset class. Now, we read so many reports about a lot of investment banks doubling into, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Say, for example, some of them, like the Morgan Stanley, they would even set a eligibility criteria, even though they are the wealth management high net worth individuals, they do set a pretty high benchmark of maybe 2 million or something like that in the US dollar. So now looking at Bitcoin over the past 12 months, they have, risen by 6 times, and then only after fallen, having fallen 90% during the bear market in 2018. Why is it important, you think, that retail investors should continue getting access to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? Or Lucy, maybe?
Yeah, so listen, I think it's kind of interesting that we're about to, potentially look at passing a bill to stop retail investors in Hong Kong from accessing an asset class that's probably the least volatile it's been in its history. This wave of price appreciation has been driven by institutions coming in. And it's a time when we've got corporates, publicly listed corporates on stock exchanges allocating to Bitcoin and having it on their balance sheet. So if ever there was a time where we were sort of reducing the volatility and increasing the long-term holding stickiness of Bitcoin as an asset class, it would be now. So it's interesting that this is the moment where we are potentially in Hong Kong going to take retail participation out of the equation. You know, whether that's a great move, we can discuss, as there's many different ways of looking at it and very many different points of view. But I would say I think people are being cautious because no one wants to dive in and then it tanks by 90%, which we've seen it's happened in the past. But that being said, it is a very new asset. It's 12 years old, and it has had dips, but the direction of travel has been upwards if you're a long-term holder.
Anyone else want to comment on this?
Yeah, to add on that point, I think like the asset class itself was very volatile because of some maybe liquidity issue, and then like that's why you saw the Bitcoin price drop not up to 90%, 80 something. And then before for that part, actually like right now the liquidity and everything, especially because of the institutional adoption, I think the liquidity has improved quite a lot, and also like for the Bitcoin trade volume right now, and then like and also the liquidity is way better than before. So like I think like in terms of volatility, is it the factor that we have to consider to block users from trading it? I mean, like in regulated markets, we also see a lot of volatile instruments and then trading with that, and then like will we consider to ban them? And also like right now, like some instruments that like we see, or like derivatives in the markets accessible by the retail market, they are volatile as well. I think what we really need to do is to educate them that like these instruments, the risk and how we mitigate it, and then like it's the risk that you understand. It's more of that approach. And I mean like because in the regulated markets, there are so many instruments, they are even more volatile than Bitcoins that like still accessible by a lot of users, right? So I think that's the I don't really think that the volatility is the very big factor that we should ban users from trading it or using it. Yeah.
Angelina, sounds like seems like you want to add something also.
No, but I can if you'd like. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the consultation shakes out in terms of the Financial Services and Treasury Bureau consultation shakes out, and how that regulation of all the exchanges that are in Hong Kong will go. And that will actually, that might start with, as we discussed in our practice session, that might be first with those of us that are getting the 1 and 7, the VASP license. We will be focusing on professional investors, but hopefully as time goes on, and hopefully regulation through the consultation paper, we can see that there might be developments in that area where retail is accepted in that. So let's see what happens.
If I'm just to flip it the other way and just think about the other side of the coin, say, for example, if the proposal of the legislation is such that retail investors are not restricted entirely, but then they perhaps would be some form of retail friendly to the regulations, then, I mean, is there any potential harm that you could foresee for this group?
No, as long as there's clear rules, I think that's an area that if the consultation comes out, is an area that could be explored. As long as the guardrails are there, that will be very important. And just making sure that people are aware. I mean, ultimately, for any investor, you have to be aware before they get into the product and understand the product before they invest. And I know it's so difficult in all financial products, but it's being educated, and that's part of the investor education process. So,
anyone would like to add anything?
Yeah, I'll add something. I mean, also, let's not forget Coinbase just listed on the NASDAQ, and 40% of its client base is retail. So there is a way of doing this and servicing the retail sector in a really responsible way, in a really safe way, with great internal governance and controls and great custody solutions. You know, there is a way to trade digital assets responsibly and with regulatory framework in place. So I would rather strive towards the US model, dare I say it, as the goal.
Yeah. Okay, great. Unless anyone wants to say anything, I'm just going to move on. Okay, all right, then I guess, we've mentioned about, investment banks or some of the big money managers having participated and dabbled into cryptocurrency or digital assets in general. Now, at this point, maybe it's a question for the exchanges. I mean, you guys are very early on. You are the startup, and then you have entered into this space so early. So now with more institutions, the Main Street ones, the conventional one, dabbling into cryptocurrency, what opportunities or challenges do you see for the early starters such as yourself?
I can start. One of the biggest opportunities is we're starting with a green field, but that's also a double-edged balancing, because just as it's early, we have to convince institutional investors of this product and teach them how to use it, if that's the case. So one of the things that we've really found is investor education will be very important. But we've come out on record and we've interviewed a number of institutional investors, and the statistics are astounding in terms of 80% want to have some exposure, and we came on record to say that in our white paper, but would like to have some exposure to digital assets, either as an investment or in an investment in something that has digital assets. And actually, a colleague of Ken was just saying just recently, I'm so invested in some of these funds that are so into Bitcoin now that, you know what, I'm like a Bitcoin holder already. So you're already seeing investors very much a part now, and institutional investors are very much a part of this whole ecosystem. So it's so exciting to see from, as I said before, in the dining table, nobody would ever ask about digital assets before. And now I can't get through a dinner without somebody asking, well, how do I trade? Gee. And which goes back to what Thor was saying. But that's why it's great to be in the early stages. And it's great to be a part of this whole process of being the first few groups getting a license in Hong Kong. So I'm really excited. And both Ken and I are really excited in what we're doing, I think. Yeah. Can I speak for you, Ken?
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. And I think right now is market awareness cannot be done by a few platforms or a few institutions, right, that share similar vision, right? So for me, I think it's a pie that is about to grow, right? So it will be win-win for everyone, right? I think that is exactly the beauty of this space, right? Because it's a growing industry where there are a lot of like co-opetition, right? Which could be seen very similarly in China when they advocate fintech since 2014 and 15, right? So there are a lot of big tech giants that collaborate in different fronts as well to push for this kind of agenda, right? So I think that would be a great momentum right now that's being observed. But two, as well as I think there are a lot more stakeholders engagement need to be crafted, right? Because I think a lot of institutional investors, either they are high net worth individuals, private banking fund houses, or family offices, they also felt confusion, right, about the lack of clarity or understanding, or there could be some misunderstood, right, around the policies that they felt, right? So I think there are a lot more work that professional service firms, right, like accountants, lawyers, etc., that they could advise the clients about how to trade or invest in these assets in a very diligent, secure, and compliant manner, right? Because this is exactly the group of people that the institutional investors will talk to and seek advice from, right? So if you look at Hong Kong, why Hong Kong is great for capital market, it's not just the number of financial professionals that we are here. It's also the burgeoning around the professional firms that give the right advice and opinion as well. So if this group of people not embracing crypto or digital assets, right? If they don't know how to advise their clients about how do they audit, test, and also doing a bunch of advisory on the legal clarity understanding. The financial institutions or institutional investors would feel very confused, right? Even they talk to us over dinner about how to trade, but if they talk to the lawyer, the accountant, the tax, and they say, sorry, I'm not sure, right? I think that will halt all the progress, right? That Andrew and myself may be talking about excitingly over the dinner, right? So I think there are a lot more infrastructure pillars that we are required to do so, right? But I think the momentum is there, but it's really up to a lot more stakeholders to really start up the game.
So anyone still want to comment on the opportunities, with the institutionalization of the market? Sorry for using this kind of word, but due to the interest of time.
Well, just on Lucy's side, one more thing, and I'd encourage Lucy to talk about it because I think fund management products are the way of the future. Right, Lucy?
Yeah, well, I would say so. Which
is why you jumped into it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at Token Bay Capital, a large part of bringing investors on board is the educational side of things. The fact that I am regulated type 9 because I used to manage traditional money really helps. I think then there's a trust element there, and then I worked at PwC's crypto team where we really
with Henry
exactly, where we really look to support these new fledgling crypto businesses and really bridge business with regulators and the keeping standards very high in terms of internal governance and controls, and maybe not full-blown audit, but certainly assurance type work, whether it's public or not. And that's really important, as Ken said, because without that type of support and insight, and without taking the time to really think about things, nothing's going to move forwards. So yes, from the fund management perspective, just to give a little outline on how you manage virtual assets as a fund manager, the SFC came out with a notice, I believe it was 2018, saying that portfolio managers could hold up to 10% of their portfolio's fund assets in virtual assets without triggering additional licensing requirements. So that basically gave a green light to portfolio managers to start experimenting with the asset class and getting familiar with it. Now, funds are marketed to professional investors in Hong Kong, so it was, limited scope in that respect, but still it was a step forwards, and in my opinion, very forward thinking. Now as we move forwards, if you go over the 10%, you want to have 100% digital asset fund, then you do need to comply with additional licensing requirements, and the regulator just wants to make sure even higher standards are adhered to, right? Because this is a new asset class that potentially requires more oversight and operational management. Operational risk is higher than investment risk in many respects when it comes to digital asset funds. But listen, great for the fund management industry in Hong Kong. And also they just came out with a limited partnership fund structure, which is a very tax efficient vehicle, which is the aim is to attract more money managers to Hong Kong. So I put my hand up at number one.
And what Lucy's saying is so true, because it's the same with us. We're actually trying to uplift to get the 100% with our type 9 in terms of being able to offer 100% crypto in our funds. But we have private equity funds. Hashkey Capital has been known for that area as being an early stage investor. So it's a really exciting area. So look forward to working with you on that, Lucy.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
All right, then. Well, so in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on to the next, topic of discussion. Cool. It seems.
Cool.
Now, it seems that initially we talked about regulations and the original motive for why the Hong Kong FSTB government department to have launched, the consultation that they've concluded earlier this year. One of the main reasons is for AML concerns, counter-terrorist financing concern, and it's part and parcel of the Financial Action Task Force. Now, if I may backtrack a little bit, right? I mean, even before our government has this adoption of the global standard for AML or counter-terrorist, how has the industry itself been, implementing risk management measures, or having some steps to help actually counter money laundering risk? I mean, can you share some insights on how has the industry been doing without regulations before?
Thor, do you want to start or you want me to go?
Yeah, maybe I can share a little bit like how we're trying to self-regulate and self-manage ourselves. I mean, like for our exchange, we've been like getting users all around the world, right? So like we do KYC on the users, and then like if it involves like a fiat money, and then like we definitely like do KYC, and then like we recognize that they are living creature, and then this is kind of the standard process that like you see very seamless process and very easy for the users. At the same time, the reporting and all the information that we collect from the users, that we really know them and we know that they are a living person there. So for the KYC process that we are adopting, we are using the technologies and also the tools that used by many regulated entities like banks or like financial services. So that's the same thing that we're using for account opening. And at the same time, we are having like some checking on the money flow, or like if digital assets, we are using some tools to check on the blockchains, whether those digital assets coming to our app platform, coming to our wallets, are they coming from some wallets at high risk? So these are all the blockchain analytics that we are also checking, make sure that I mean, this is not fiat cash in the banking system flowing around, but this is digital assets flowing around to our wallets. We want to make sure that those assets are clean. And also at the same time for the market surveillance piece, that actually like since we are using London Stock Exchange Group technologies to build our matching engine, there's a proven technologies in 40 different regulated financial markets. So like we've learned and tried to adopt a lot of best practices to have like market surveillance to make sure that like some crazy market behavior is not happening on our exchange platform. At the same time, we are trying to look into some behavior specific to only like a cryptocurrency trading, and then like maybe like some momentum schemes there, or like they have a layering or like firm running, or like maybe like some level playing ground that maybe like some users they firm each other. So these are all the things that we are trying to figure out how to self-regulate ourselves, even though we are not really like a regulated exchange in Hong Kong. So like so these are the things that like I think like a lot of exchanges they are working towards this, and then like educating users that like why their assets are safe and how they manage them, and then so they have like some storage requirements. I mean, at the same time, when we try to look into our infrastructure and our technologies, we are also like keep checking or keep looking at the regulatory guidelines available in the market, that they are very clear and they are very comprehensive, especially the US guidelines. They're very clear that like we've been keep looking at that in details, right? I mean, that's something we cannot see in Hong Kong regulatory guidelines. That very vague and very broad, that I mean, like the reference value is very low for us. That's why we are looking at some more established, I mean, like regulatory guidelines in cryptocurrencies. Yeah, so this is what we are doing right now.
Or Ken, would you like to add something, or?
Yeah, I think increasingly we can see either you're unregulated or regulated exchange, right? They are adopting more stringent procedures. Around first is about the KYC, right? Know your customer, meaning that which kind of customers that should be on board, right? So I think that is increasingly more tightened up around the procedures and the documents and different technologies that currently used by a lot of like banks, right? Virtual banks globally. There are a lot of technology services to do all this digitally. So I think there are a lot of exchanges already apply for the KYC. And you can talk about the AML, right? The anti-money laundering. And there are two aspects we are talking about. One is about the fiat money, meaning that the actual money that we are transacting at US dollar, etc. So there are a very robust and also quite traditional way that is screening through, right? So I think a lot of exchanges are already adopting that. Another angle that is very unique to the exchanges that would be the KYT, right? You are checking about the transactions, you're checking about the wallet, and this kind of solutions, right? Again, right? These are going to be very matured, right? And there are more than 4 to 5 quite dominant service providers globally providing this kind of very unique AML solutions to the transactions and wallet to your address about whether it's clean or not, or in our terms, whether it's whitelisted clients, right? Because you could not be a blacklist one if you want to trade. So again, I think for the traditional finance that we talk about in KYC, AML, there are already a number of very matured procedures and policies that are being guided through. And I think Hong Kong, right, it also follows through a lot of international organizations, right, like Financial Action Task Force, and recently, like Lucy and myself from FinTech Association of Hong Kong, we also charted a paper to feedback our Hong Kong community members in our association about some of the latest guidelines about how international AML organizations should be governed against. So I think we are putting some effort in our Hong Kong community to feedback against that. And I see there's a consensus view that people are getting more tightened up, right? They are more alert in adopting this. And there are already a lot of mature service providers out there to help going through this journey.
We've come so far along, Georgina. I remember in 2018, I was poo-pooed by a group of people that said that AML was not important. And I said, no, you're wrong. And well, I've been proved right, but it's only going to be an area of growth in terms of eKYC and know your token. And as more institutional investors get into this market, I think it's even more important as a part of the whole developing and maturation of this product. It'll be very, very important. So.
Yeah. Now, at this point, I'd like to say we do see a couple of questions already been posed. So I do encourage, all of the attendants of this panel discussion session. If you have any questions, feel free to raise it in the chat box. I'll try my best to raise those to any of the panel members here. Interactive is always the goal that we want to, conduct this panel discussion. So anything that you'd like to direct to any one of them, I suppose that they would be happy to, share as much as they want.
Georgina, I like Ryan's question. Do you see an opportunity for Hong Kong to launch its own stablecoin, e-Hong Kong or e-CNH?
Anyone here?
What can be imagined can be achieved. Yup, I do. I really, really do. And it's just a matter of time. If I think HKMA is going to do it first, if they haven't already done it.
So you're saying HKMA would do like in the form of a central bank digital currency?
Token, yes.
Yeah.
Something
Well,
like
they've
that.
started with the, I agree with you, Angelina. They've started with the cross-border CBDC. So it's a very small step from the cross-border CBDC to retail, actually, because actually, if you're doing cross-border transactions and it's not just limited to financial institutions, but you're involving corporates, then it's very, very quickly filters down to retail. So I think the whole innovation in digital currencies, we are in a part of the world that is leading. I mean, China is number one. They're already airdropping their eRMB, and Hong Kong is going to follow very closely, if not using the eRMB. In fact, the eRMB will be, you can use that as well in Hong Kong.
The only thing I worry about is adoption, because USDC and USDT are so in the majority that whether or not investors will take this thing up. But hopefully it might be interesting if we did have HKD, ECNH, that, hey, we talk about financial inclusion. Let's use the mobile phone, put it on our AAX or HK Bitex or Hashkey Exchange wallet and just touch and pay for your taxi.
Yeah, rather than cash, which is what we currently do. We really need to phase out hard cash in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, so anyone else? If not, I do see another question, but I'm gonna save it to the last part, Sanjeev. So no worries. I caught your question. Just that it's gonna tie into our end message a lot smoother that way. So we haven't forgotten your question. So let's return to the big picture here. And ultimately, we have talked about regulations a lot in what we've discussed. And ultimately, I guess the Hong Kong government, FSTB, has proposed what they have in the current version because they have emphasized that they want to strike a balance between investor protection and preserving innovation. So these 2 points, I think they're trying very hard to strike a good balance. That's why they have proposed the version of regulations that they have proposed today. Now, maybe anyone could just jump in with your views. Do you think that with the version we have, which is to restrict trading, restrict the retail investor from trading, could that achieve this goal of striking this balance? Okay, you're allowed to say yes or no, but if not, if you answer no, what is your alternative measures that you can suggest?
I mean, I'll jump in here. I do think this whole movement was born out of, it was a bottom up movement, right? With Bitcoin, it's inherently retail driven innovation. And to limit retail investors from probably the most important inflection point where we're really taking this technology to the next level is potentially, going to really limit Hong Kong's role in this new digital economy and the new digital economy globally. So for me, I think I understand the concerns from regulators of protecting retail, but I think it should be potentially better managed or open for discussion with broader groups, maybe more associations. I know they put out the consultation paper, and as Ken said, as the FinTech Association of Hong Kong, we replied with our thoughts to that. But I do hope that it does lead to a broader discussion, a continued discussion with such is actually pretty extreme measure to take retail out of the digital asset story in Hong Kong. If the concern is investor protection, measures potentially limiting exposure, understanding what percentage of the person's wealth is going into digital assets, maybe that's quite difficult. But otherwise, having a clear roadmap as to when you're going to be able to incorporate retail customers and what's going to trigger that, rather than a blanket retail is not involved in this story. And that potentially leads, innovative exchanges that are servicing those clients to move to other jurisdictions. So I think it's better to keep everyone warm. Like maybe it's a no today, but is it a yes in a year? And what milestones need to be met so that retail, when does it become safe enough for retail? And when can we bring them into the story? Because this is a story of financial empowerment. And the innovation is coming from the grassroots level. So it's incredibly important, in my opinion, to maintain that interaction with retail.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah. So I think and then go ahead. So I think right now, if the paper came in 5 years ago, I would appreciate the balance that proposed. But right now, it's actually quite late that so many retail investors in Hong Kong trading crypto. We estimated that around more than 200,000 users in Hong Kong when we observe it from Telegram activities or a different social media platform or on our platforms. So if we now completely ban the retail users, it's actually hurting the retail investors to trade. If you think about it, if I'm a retail user, now I have Bitcoin, I just want to trade, right? I'm just a retail. I really have it in my wallet right now at this moment. And then what am I going to do? If we're going to say okay, you're a retail investor, you are not going to trade Bitcoin now. And then these users, this is money, this is my Bitcoin, right? I'm going to look for crypto platforms that let me trade. And then you will see that these are all the platforms outside Hong Kong, they still continue to trade. So, if we really ban these users, ignore this big group of users, they are trading actively. And then we are going to hurt these users that I'm a Hong Kong citizen. I've been serving the user base here, and then we have a very friendly and trusted community to talk about Bitcoin. We educate them that how you're going to protect your assets, what's going on with Bitcoin trading, this stuff. And these are the users that okay, if we are not allowed to trade, and then okay, sorry, we are not going to serve you, and then you figure out how to take care of your Bitcoin. That would be the reality. We really ban it. A very sad story for us. There's a very big community and people are very passionate about it. I know that those guys in the Bitcoin Association, these guys, they traded Bitcoins long ago. So I always think that the technologies, they come way earlier than the regulation. They understand what's going on. and then now if we really be very restrictive, then rather than having an attitude to say like understand what's going on. Hey, you guys, I know that like you have Bitcoin in your wallet, and maybe like we can try to regulate or like have some clear guidelines on regulations. And then this platform, they can still serve you guys, and then like it's fine for them. I mean, like that's actually a very big reaction for a lot of users in Hong Kong. I'm sure that like it's not just hurting the retail investors, but also like from a business perspective. I'm operating the exchange for business for a while, right? And then I really think that it's going to hurt the competitiveness against other peer cities. That like I mean, doing business is very challenging in Hong Kong, especially hiring talents, fintech talents, engineers, or something, right? And then like if you're going to say that like okay, we cannot operate that in Hong Kong, and then like that might have like some problems that our stuff, and then like maybe some stuff that we hunted from Singapore or like from US, they come over to trade or like come over to help us to build a very sophisticated matching engines or like a trading platform. This guy, they just go home, and then like we also lost the chance to foster more engineers, and then these guys, they can actually have experience and knowledge to teach people, and then like this guy gonna leave, and then like I'm not sure about like the people like setting up the guidelines. They know how many like experts or crypto experts or like developers or like technical guys they have in Hong Kong. It's actually like we have very famous crypto people in Hong Kong and very notable technical blockchain guys in Hong Kong doing their own projects. I mean, they are not institutional that like you see from the big names or the household names of the banks or like financial institutes, but they are blockchain communities. They are developers that like you see on Twitter, on Reddit, or like on GitHub, you see that they commit a lot of good codes. These developers, if they say, okay, I cannot join any companies in Hong Kong, I'm going to leave and to go to other cities that they can accommodate technical talents like us. So it helps innovation, talent experts. That's something is going to happen, and also hurts job creation. I mean, like we've been growing in Hong Kong, hiring more people to serve the Hong Kong users. We hire engineers. We hire a lot of technical people to deliver maybe blockchain solutions, and then like a security engineering. I mean, like if we cannot operate, and then we have to figure out how to accommodate our staff, right? So that's why we are applying for license in Singapore, and then seems to be more retail friendly that like we can still operate there. I mean, like for us, that's actually a very big challenge because we do not know, and we do not see any guidelines for that. Like, what if there's a real ban there in later this year, and then like what a business could do, and then like it seems that like the only choice and option we have will be leave Hong Kong. I mean, we really want to continue the business, right? We still need to serve users outside of Hong Kong, and we have users in CIS region, Europe, Southeast Asia. I mean, like I think like I'm trying to contribute a lot to serve users in Hong Kong, and also like serve users outside Hong Kong, and also like trying to do more job creation. Although our company is not very big, right? But we are really creating jobs and fostering talents in engineering, in blockchain, right? And then like we are even having a plan to consider to move these people out of Hong Kong. And then I mean that's the reality that like we are having as a business owner of a cryptocurrency platform right now.
Angelina, you want to say something?
Well, there's a question also, and just adding on to what Thor is saying, there are so many opportunities now, and for those of you who are tired of old-fashioned financial services and equities, there's so many opportunities of jobs and job creation in this area. It's just, are you interested in it enough? I had a person that I've just recruited, which I'm so happy about, and he's been in a very traditional business, but he's like, I really want to get in this business, and I really am excited. And I said, there are risks. You're leaving a really steady job, and no, I'm really excited. So it's an area that people feel that they can learn. So traditional compliance, risk management, product control, accounting, tech, trading, it's all there in terms of for the taking, in terms of jobs that are being created now. So it's not just programmers, it's people that can actually bring business. It's actually people that do control functions. So everything that's in traditional finance is now moving into digital assets. And I used to say, gee, I have a head start. So Ken, myself, Thor, Lucy probably have a head start about 1 or 2 years, but everybody else is going to start rushing right behind us, getting into this job market. I think there are so many opportunities with that. So we need to keep ahead. I think it's quite exciting. I hope that answers the question that's in the chat.
Yep.
So.
There's another question in the chat, actually. Basically, I think it's a follow-up to some of the comments about Hong Kong developing as a crypto hub within the Greater Bay Area. I guess one of the participants here wanted to ask if Hong Kong wants to develop into a crypto hub in the Greater Bay Area. Now, given the geopolitical tension of the US government versus China, very obvious big elephant running around, is there any implications if we simply just adopt a US model here in Hong Kong? Is there any such concerns that it might not work for the Greater Bay Area?
I think right there, I think less about how the blockchain development or what we talk about the Bitcoin and the regulation to be seen, that will be separately measured in different jurisdictions. I think more important is about the risk-based approach, right, which is always pervaded across all the jurisdiction regulator, right? So I think the comments that the other panelists point out right there, I think is about how the platform can ensure what type of investors, in respect to your retail or professional investors, that number one, they clearly understand what they are investing into, right? And they know the investment process and they know how to monitor the performance, etc. So this kind of model, more like risk-based approach, it has been well adopted in the other regulators, including SFC themselves, right? By a lot of investment products that we are buying, right? So that's why we have a lot of like risk questionnaire, risk profiling questionnaire, right? RPQ, right? When we need to answer a lot of questions, when we start purchasing financial products in banks, insurance or broker, etc. So I think similar approach can be adopted, right? And what we see from US as well is we always say the other jurisdiction or a lot of conspiracies that, oh, other jurisdictions are more crypto friendly, right? But what I see is it's not the same case, right? It's about how we clearly articulate the guideline, the principle, and the roadmap that what could be done or not, right? Because without clarity, it will be hard for institutions and the investor to plan out their forthcoming plans, right? So I think that is something that I think we want to hope to be seen. Two, I think is by adopting risk-based approach, right? It's not about excluding anyone. It's about whether that individual, either retail or professional investors, that they could up to the crypto space, right? Even for PI, if they don't know crypto enough, right, should they really buy it, right? So I think there are a lot of like a fine line that we should draw around. And comparing US is not maybe the direct comparison, because we see a lot of major jurisdictions also welcoming crypto and having relevant guidelines and laws enforced as well, like Switzerland, right? They're one of the most crypto-friendly jurisdiction, like UK as well. Japan, they are also doing a lot of crypto thing as well. So I think there are a lot of references, right? But not just single out one jurisdiction.
Okay, then maybe one last question from the participants here, I guess. I think some of our panelists here, they have close dialogue with the SFC because potentially you in the process of applying for more licensees at the moment. So someone actually wants to know if there's any visibility on when we would know, whether we would know this year whether there would be a real ban on retail investor. Any chance that we know that it's going to come through this year, Q3 or Q4, that we would have some hints from the regulator?
Not sure it's going to be a ban, but I'm sure they're going to come out. They have to come out with the consultation conclusions. That we do know. So I think without making any guesses, they have to get that out sometime, probably in time for FinTech Week again, if I were a betting person. So I think they'll probably issue something then, so that Ashley can speak about it. So let's see what happens there. I hope it's not a ban. I hope it's something interesting.
Yeah. Right then. Well, so before I wrap up, maybe I don't know if the association, the host here, you want to address any of these questions posted?
Thanks, Georgina, and thank you all the panel speakers for sharing your insights. There's one question from Sanjeev where he asked, how is the Hong Kong Bitcoin Association helping to innovate Bitcoin's tech potential and applications? I think I'll try and answer this by giving an example. As a 100% volunteer-run organization, we have events happening anywhere from 3 to 4 times a month. And all these events are based on someone's interest. If you look at the artwork right behind me, it's of an MTR tram where we actually had our co-founder Leo Weiss commission a local artist called Felix Ip to create this. It's metal. It's a signed limited edition type of artwork to try and capture the arts and culture here in Hong Kong. And going back to your question on helping to innovate Bitcoin's tech potential, we have different committees similar to the FinTech Association. For us, we've got a mining committee, we have a devs committee, and it's more about if you're interested in it, join our organization, find out how you can contribute, and just raise your hand and say, I want to organize a dev committee talking about how to program more and build an application together. Then you just get in touch with our organization representatives, and we'll try and reach out to some of the other organizations to see how we can pool like-minded individuals together. For this event that happened tonight, a lot of our members were concerned about the regulation restricting retail investors, because with the definition of being a professional investor, we were very concerned about the lack of clarity and regulation that might significantly impact the retail investor's ability to trade on platforms. It could also significantly impact the attraction of Hong Kong being a place for crypto innovation, where, as Angelina mentioned, there's tens and tens of exchanges and talent here. But another point that I want to echo with Thor mentioned that the talents might be hard to find. They might come to Hong Kong and they might decide to leave. What we're trying to do as a nonprofit, non-government organization is we know there's talent here. Someone that can make a beautiful artwork like this, there might be developers also wanting to get into the space, but they don't know where to connect. So for us as a neutral organization to pull together like-minded individuals, we're trying to do our bit any way that we can. And if you want to join, just visit our website at bitcoin.org.hk. Or if you have any technical questions on how to get involved, if Angelina is getting too frustrated where too many people are asking, how do I set up accounts or where do I go? We also run a volunteer run Telegram chat where there's volunteers that are just really helping through their own time that says, okay, this is some of the ways to better minimize chances of security breaches, or these are the ways that you can try and vet different projects or platforms, some best practices. So again, raise your hand if you want to help out, and we'll try and help the community in any way that we can.
I think that calls for a meetup. I think that calls for a meetup.
Love a good meetup.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess it's a very convenient way for us to, summarize the discussion that we have today. We have achieved quite a lot within a short space of a little bit more than an hour. So I guess we've talked a lot about increasing institutional participation, such as the banks or asset managers, actually having the effect of stabilizing the volatility that we've seen in cryptocurrencies in the past year. And actually, now that we're seeing, recently, we've seen a constant upward trend, and the volatility as a result of this participation and liquidity has improved. So it might back the question for us now to ask: is it the right time for us to think about banning or restricting entirely retail participation, while at the same time in the conventional finance, we do see a lot of also risky products being sold at the retail investors also. The other point that we've discussed is while striking a balance between innovation and investor protection is important, equally important could be, the setting of internal controls or governance. That would be the industry safeguard that has been practiced in the industry for years. And this potentially could be one way for us to continue doing so that we could have a clearer potential roadmap for when retail investors, if the current proposal is preserved, when retail investors could also participate in this asset class. The roadmap is important. The timeline is important because businesses like to have certainty of their business planning, and that would tie in with the fact that if Hong Kong would like to develop itself as a crypto innovation center within the Greater Bay Area, this kind of clear roadmap and business planning is essential. Lastly, I guess everybody within this panel is very enthusiastic about more education being done that should accompany and as important for preserving retail participation in this asset class, be them professional investors or not professional investors, which make up the majority of the Hong Kong population. Is there anything anyone would like to add after this?
You are an amazing host.
Thank you.
Great summary, Georgina. Great summary.
Thank you. I just want to
Great
ensure that
summary.
everybody has a chance to add your own comments.
Those were
Got
key takeaways.
Okay, great. Brian, going back to you.
Thank you so much for.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Angelina?
Keep trading.
Keep trading.
Yes. I think we hopefully can have another panel discussion on trading, whilst it's still not restricted, on some of the best practices on how not to get wrecked, maybe some of the ways on portfolio management, risk management, trade management. And we can always reach out offline to try and arrange another one of these. But again, I want to thank the moderator, the panelists, the audience that's here. Thank you so much for the questions that you've raised. And again, thank you everyone here who's listening and contributing their time. Anything that you need help with, just reach out to any one of us. Is there a preferred method for each one of us to be connected? By LinkedIn, or for me, it would be LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, email,
Yeah, email is fine.
Telegram,
Awesome.
Signal. Now you know I'm a real crypto person. So thank you, Brian, and thank you, Georgina, for being the hostess.
Thanks, everybody.
So good to see everybody. And
too.
Georgina, I love the picture behind you.
Yes, the SCMP, I think they have taken pride of all this artwork that they have done with our internal cartoonist. I think this is our internal stuff. So
Let's NFT it.
Yeah.
I know I should suggest that, and then the SCMP would make a big amount of money out of that.
I think Alibaba's doing okay for now.
Yeah.
So money is never too late, I guess. Okay,
right,
thank you,
all.
everybody. Have a
you
good
soon.
evening
Thank you.
and speak
Cheers.
soon.
Thank you, all the participants.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.